Are we good?
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another live stream. I'm doing this um, because I didn't have something prepared for today.
Oh yeah, he
so,
did not.
so
And I warned him yesterday that there would be hell to pay. So
I had to stream. I have to be here now, and we have to be here for like an hour or so. Um, and we're going to be reviewing a debate. This is a an abortion debate. Destiny, liberal streamer, sucks, not very smart.
stop.
Uh, and Trent Horn, who is based and W Catholic YouTuber. Um, he's worth checking out. But this is an abortion debate, so he's taking the pro quote choice side. Trent Horn's obviously taking the pro life side, and we're gonna watch this. We're gonna give our own thoughts on this, and we're going to maybe I don't know. We might give responses that they didn't give to each other, depending on whether they, you know, did a good job at addressing each other's points or not. And this is the first time I'm watching this all the way through, so this is gonna be interesting. So I have the tab pulled up over here. I'm gonna check on the stream, make sure that's coming through and everything. I also have my boy, uh, the Blinflit,
Hey, what's up?
as he likes to be called, the Blinflit.
The Binflit, more formally
Yes,
the Blind Flat Earther.
yes. But in reality, everyone knows that I am the real Blinflit.
No, you're not the real Blindfoot. He does this nonsense all the time. He calls me and he says, "You're speaking to the Blindfoot." And I have to address his point every single time that he is not the Blindfoot, the originator of the name, the Blind Flat Earther. So he cannot be called the Blindfoot. And he doesn't even believe that the Earth is flat necessarily. So
Okay, so let's see if this comes through.
Flowing conversation to $199 and up triggers TT.
All right, so I just played it. Oh yeah, it's going through. It's going through. All right, perfect. All right, Mr. the Blinflit, are you ready to start?
we are good to go.
Hell yeah.
We are live. Welcome to a special debate edition of the Whatever podcast. I am your host and moderator, Brian Atlas. A few quick announcements before the show begins. This podcast is viewer supported, heavy YouTube demonetization. So please consider donating through Streamlabs instead of super chatting, as YouTube takes a 30% cut. The Streamlabs link is in the description. Basically, if you super chat 100, YouTube takes 30. If you donate 100, Streamlabs only takes 3. Donations and super chats for this special episode will be $10 and up, will be displayed in Stream Overlay. Donations and super chats $50 and up will be read, answered at intervals throughout the show. If you want to interact nearly instantly with us and weigh
Oh
in
gosh, the chat is gonna be insane for this.
Is it actually? I haven't actually watched any of
on
it.
the debate
Pretty sure I haven't watched through this, but
live, consider sending a TTS, text-to-speech message. We have bumped that just for the sake of a flowing conversation to $199 and up triggers TTS. TTS is via Streamlabs only, so if any of you psychos really want to weigh in on the discussion, please see the description for all triggers and full details. Without further ado, I am joined today by Destiny, famous internet personality, live streamer, and political commentator, who will be arguing the pro-choice side, or as he prefers, the pro-abortion side.
yeah. So that's the first thing I actually want to cover is this whole label of pro-choice, and I actually made a video about this, so I'm going to talk about this really quickly. The label pro-choice is stupid. It's always been stupid, and I'm glad he knows that.
I like I concede it was almost worse though. First position.
Yeah, but the label pro-choice in itself is really dumb, and the reason it's really dumb is because you're saying you're pro choosing what, right? That's the real question here. And if you're saying pro choosing abortion, then why not just call it pro abortion? It's just like a slimy tactic that pro-choicers use in order to paint their opposition as if they're trying to take choices away from women or something, right? When anybody who actually understands the issue knows that.
I mean, we are taking away a choice. We're taking away the choice to kill
Yeah,
children.
but we take away the choice. We take away somebody's ability to murder, for example, just openly. We take that away by law. And so anybody who knows that about this issue and what the core positions here are knows that it's all about ethics and it's all about philosophy. And so it's really slimy to be like, oh, well, you're pro taking the choice away from women. No, I'm pro people not dying, right? I'm pro you not killing babies.
They're just big fans of that, unfortunately.
And we have Trent Horn. Trent earned.
Okay, so I want to say this real quick. It's really funny that this guy's about to list all these accolades that Trent has, like these degrees in theology and stuff, bioethics. But for Destiny, all he introduces him as is the pro-abortionist, because Destiny doesn't have accolades.
Yeah.
Master's degrees in the fields of theology, philosophy, and bioethics. Trent is an adjunct professor of apologetics at Holy Apostles College, and he's the author of 9 books. Trent will be arguing the pro-life side.
9
Thank you
books.
guys for
It's just
joining
9
me.
books.
Appreciate it. I think a good jumping off point for each of you, if any of you wish to further introduce yourselves, otherwise we can just get right in. What is your basic stance on abortion? And Destiny, why don't we have you start?
Yeah, so I think that the typical pro-life argument is the idea that we say that life begins at the moment of conception. I believe that there is some kind of life that begins at the moment of conception, but the thing that we're interested in protecting is the human conscious experience. Whenever we talk about a person, we're not usually talking about a body or a collection of cells. We're talking about some other conscious sentient being. Whenever we're talking about pain...
I'm glad you concede that, because that's what we call a soul. Just saying.
Suffering, harm, happiness, joy, any of these emotions, we're usually talking about somebody that can experience them as such. When we look at the end of life, the instructive moment is when the person no longer has or is capable of having a conscious experience. So I think when we look at the beginning of life, we should also start at the same point, which is when that conscious experience forms. So my argument is abortion should be illegal at the moment that the fetus is capable of having all of the parts communicating that can deploy said conscious experience, which I read is anywhere from 20 to 28 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah,
so,
I love how he just assumes
to be
that we
honest,
know that.
I'll be honest right here now. This is probably the best argument that the abortionists have, is this consciousness thing. It's going to get probably answered, but this is their best argument, to be completely honest.
Nah, I'd say that it's funny how they just assert that there's no conscious experience until a certain time and that we know concretely where it is.
That's the other thing. But I'm just saying, like, this, because at least because the debate really boils down to, okay, is the fetus in the womb a human person that should be protected? Unless you can provide a good reason for why it shouldn't be, the default position is yes, because it's a human being. And given enough time, it will grow into a functioning member of society.
Not to mention the chance of that happening is very, very likely, unless if outside factors attribute, or like
Right.
a lot of people will act as if it's a low likelihood that if you just let the
And so basically what they have to do, the pro-abortion individual, what they have to do every time is try to disqualify them from this, from humanity, basically. You have to disqualify them, and you have to provide for some kind of criteria for what makes a human or a person. And most of the criteria that they provide backfire in their face, and I'm sure this one does as well. But at least this one is an attempt at something. Whereas the other ones are bad.
So legally, I say probably at about 20 weeks would be the safe point to start protecting that person that's now developed in the womb.
All right. Right. And so my position would be that your value comes not from what you can do, but from what you are, that human beings acquire and lose different abilities throughout their existence. And many of our abilities are also shared by non-human beings that don't have a right to life. Like when it comes to consciousness, there are animals that exhibit levels of consciousness beyond what many humans exhibit, like infants, for example. There are many non-human animals more conscious than them. So I don't think that it's consciousness that makes us valuable. What makes us valuable is that we're members of a kind, of a rational kind, and every member of that kind has equal intrinsic value. So I just think that every human being has equal rights, equal dignity, and that this phrase, every human being, would include every member of the human species. So that begins at fertilization, and then that would end when someone dies, when their body parts no longer function together as a whole.
Okay, yeah. So see how I said that this debate ultimately boils down to philosophy? Because what he essentially just said is human beings are valuable because they're made in the image of God without saying it, because this guy's an atheist. Destiny's an atheist, so he won't accept that. So he has to word it in different ways. But essentially what he just said is human beings are made in the image of God because God is rational and has the ability to do all these kinds of things.
Another thing that I'd like to address is when you talk about consciousness, it can also extend to old people in hospital. So is it justifiable for me to pull the plug? A lot of people would say no, it's not justifiable for that. Not to mention,
but you gotta keep in mind who you're talking to, because a lot of them would say yes, actually.
Yeah, a lot of them would, but I'm saying like a lot of people would not as well. So if you do come from that perspective, it just makes you look logically inconsistent. Not to mention, frogs and actually bees will do this as well. They'll hibernate, and they'll, like, frogs become completely frozen. So if you're telling me that they're conscious during that experience, then I have no idea what you're even talking about, because there's no way that they're conscious. So can we just justify killing frogs needlessly when they're in that stage? Because there is certain kinds of frogs that will do that.
Islam guidance, it says pro-choice doesn't mean anything in reality. Yeah, it's just a slimy tactic that people who want to make it about a whole women's rights issue, which it's not. It's an ethical issue. It's about because follow this train of thought for a second. If you consider yourself, quote, pro-choice, if hypothetically we on the pro-life side are right in saying that abortion is morally equivalent to murder, then it is not. Can you agree that it is not a women's rights issue? It's an issue of ethics and morality, not an issue of what women get to do with their bodies. And I'm gonna have my co-host here. He's gonna make a video about Bill Nye because he's using like all these commentaries. He's using all these commentaries.
Bill Nye. If I was
so bad.
If I were to address half the thing that Bill Nye says about any issue that we disagree on, which is probably everything, to be honest with you,
he's a big lib.
He's so stupid. Anything from flatters that I don't even know if he knows enough about geocentrism to make anything about that, but he's made stuff about flat Earth before. He'd get destroyed. About literally the topic.
He's so dumb. Yeah. All the common arguments he uses.
Literally of every issue, he'll address the common
Don't tell
arguments.
women what to do. Like,
literally exactly what he said. Verbatim.
That's literally what he said.
Exactly what he said. He doesn't even articulate it even very well anyway.
Alright, let's continue. Wait, why not? Is it
So when their body parts, you begin to decompose. When your body starts to fall apart, that's when you stop existing. You start existing when your body parts work together to allow you to grow and develop, which biologists would agree happens at fertilization. So that would be the pro-life, anti-abortion position. And then I guess a little thing on my background too. I also host a podcast called The Council of Trent, COUNSEL. If you're Catholic, you'll get the joke, and that's available on YouTube. You'll want to go and check that out.
Okay, rock and roll. And we have everyone's links are in the description. I think we have your podcast linked in the description as well. So just a point of clarification for Destiny. At what point, because I think you have a time limit on it, or not a time limit, but you don't think abortion should occur after when or how long?
I'd say legislatively, I'd say 20 weeks.
Okay, gotcha. And is there any circumstance where abortion is justified?
Well, I would say that I would agree with states that have laws that allow you to use medical interventions to protect the life of the woman. So I believe that we should treat unborn human beings, human fetuses, human embryos, like we would treat born human beings. And there can be cases where if a born human being, even an innocent born human being, threatens the life of another innocent born human being, like if, somebody, their drink gets spiked at a party and they go crazy and they grab a gun and they're going to shoot people, you might have to use lethal force to protect other people. But I believe that most abortions are not meant to protect someone's life. They instead are meant to protect elements of one's lifestyle. I don't mean to put it crudely, but social reasons, economic reasons. I think just as we don't kill toddlers just because they might be in a difficult situation, like the dad's left, mom lost her job. We don't kill toddlers in a really bad situation to try to make it better. We shouldn't do the same to unborn human beings if they have the same value as a toddler does.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say that it's morally equivalent to kill an embryo and a toddler.
The only thing that I would push back on a little bit is like the whole thing about medical interventions is typically what actually happens is they actually try and do something for the woman, and if all else fails, it's a last minute resort. So I just wouldn't say it's necessarily how they paint it as, oh, if we don't kill the baby, it's the woman is 100% for sure not going to live. It's completely different from that. So I think saying that it's justifiable.
I don't think you painted it like that though.
I'm saying in general that's how it typically gets painted.
Okay, yeah. By people that are using this position to be disingenuous and support abortion on demand. I think it's the two ways I've seen people do that is through that position and the rape position. And the only reason that's as strong as it is because that's an emotional topic. But again, we're talking about ethics, we're talking about morals, we're talking about it would be morally equivalent to do X and Y things, right? You don't get to bring emotional arguments into these kinds of discussions. I'm sorry, you just don't get to do that.
Yeah, and again,
unless you want to collapse your entire ethical framework, be my guest.
Yeah, literally. Again, getting back to that point, it's they don't just say there's a risk that the mother's gonna die, so therefore one of your choices is to choose to abort. They try and do what they can for the mother, and if all else fails, that's an ending byproduct. It's not intentionally they had to go in there and kill the baby. That's a little bit different.
Right.
A little bit of a separation there.
Okay, got it. So I think another good jumping off point is, when do you each believe that personhood begins?
Between that 20 to 28 week point, whenever there's a part where all of the structures in the brain are in place and then they begin to communicate with each other such that you would have some conscious experience. I would say that's your personhood.
Okay.
So I think it's really interesting that he is reiterating a really old theological debate that basically is this, but in terms of theology. So it's when does a person gain their soul, which is what is called a consciousness in modern speak. But the debate was, when does a person gain their soul, and is it permissible for you to kill that person because they have no soul yet? And the church ended up concluding that no, you don't get to do that because it's going to have a soul and you have no right to impede on it.
Yeah, regardless of when the
and I would say
there or not. I didn't know that was necessarily a debate. historical.
It's a really old debate that was like centuries old, but it's essentially just a rehashing of it with modern secular language. Islam Diner says Trent sounds like he'd be called counsel. That lifestyle line is a bar. Yeah, I agree, for sure. What the hell do you mean? Some kind of life either it starts or it doesn't. Well, I mean, yeah, it's kind of a nonsense term that he just used there because it's life, which he concedes it by calling that.
Personhood, though, you don't necessarily. What's interesting about the pro-life position is you don't have to believe a human embryo or human fetus is a person to be against abortion. There's actually multiple arguments to be against abortion. Now, I think that
I can hold the position that, I can hold Destiny's position that, that the fetuses, which I'm just gonna use the normal word baby, that babies don't gain their souls until 20 weeks in, and I can still be against it regardless.
all human beings, all living human beings are persons. Now, they might be injured, so they might be disabled persons who, can't function rationally. They might be in a coma. They might have Alzheimer's or dementia. But I think every human being is a person. But even if you didn't believe the unborn were persons, you can even sidestep the personhood question. Because you could ask this question: why is death bad? Why is it bad to cause the death of an infant or the death of you or me, but not bad? Most people agree it's not bad to cause the death of a pig. Even vegans usually don't treat the death of a human infant like the death of a pig. So why is death bad? I think most people agree that death is bad because it's deprivational. It deprives us of something. It's bad when humans die, not because they have necessarily a desire to live. Animals don't, like infants don't have that. But what makes death bad for humans is it deprives a human of unique experiences. Like if an infant dies, they lose a future like ours. That's why it's so tragic when an infant dies. It also makes sense why it's sad, but not as tragic if a 99-year-old dies, because they don't have as much of a future. So then it would follow. And then, of course, the reason we, have pork chops and burgers, or at least don't treat them as the same as killing humans, because animals don't have a future like ours.
Ultimately,
so if that's
because they're not rational beings like we are, which ultimately goes back to we're created in God's image, and they're not.
Yeah, well, the other thing is,
what makes killing so wrong. Well, human embryos and human fetuses,
go on.
They do have.
I wonder, it'd be kind of interesting to see if there is a vegan who wants to actually take the position of so-called pro-choice, because
it's hilarious.
It'd be hilarious to watch.
I mean, there's environmentalists that value the trees outside more than a baby.
Really? That's a thing?
Yeah.
That's a position that exists? No way.
That's a position that exists. The environmentalist, pro-choice, liberal. Yeah, that's a thing.
No way.
Yeah.
That'd be so easy to destroy. Wow.
For real. Yeah.
Have that, even if you're not consciously aware of it, they have that, and killing them deprives them of that really valuable thing.
Yeah.
And so that's why another way to think of abortion being wrong, even if you don't have the personhood element there.
Do you have a response, or?
Do you find that when you use that argument of future experience, can you run into trouble with people challenging you that future experience might be horrible enough such that it could actually justify an abortion? So, for instance, let's say in the case of I think Tay-Sachs disease is a really rough one where I think children can die, I think often before the age of 5, right?
Right.
If your defense of abortion is bad because it's depriving somebody of a future experience, I think baked into that assumption is that the future experience is on a whole a net positive, right?
Right.
So doesn't that kind of make your point conditional on a positive future experience, which would justify the pro-choice argument of you should abort people that might end up in horrible circumstances?
Well, I think that the future like ours argument, I consider it a secondary argument for my position.
Okay.
So it may not show, I agree with you that it doesn't show that all killing is wrong. Like if your boss is dying of a heart attack and you shoot him, you don't really deprive him of a valuable future, but it was still wrong for you to do that. So I don't think that it shows all killing is wrong, but I think it shows many acts of killing in general are wrong. And there are far more healthy unborn children, or even infants, for example. Like, you might miss the Tay-Sachs diagnosis, and now you have an infant who has Tay-Sachs. But most people, even in that case, most people wouldn't directly kill that infant who they know is going to die in a few years. So there, I think the other argument would be, well, all human beings have this intrinsic value.
Yeah.
They're all
I wouldn't use the whole argument about future, and I would just say, look, we gain our value as human beings from the fact that we are rational creatures,
I would
God's image
articulate it
for
if I would use it.
those of us who know, like, those of us who aren't atheist secularists, we can say that we're made in God's image, and that's what gives us our value. And since everyone, including the unborn, has that, because you start off with it, every person has it, then that's why killing somebody is wrong. That's why they have value, but the reason killing somebody is wrong is because you're not the one that has the authority to do that, because you didn't give that life. You're not the author of life, so you don't get to take it away from people.
Another thing is, if I was going to use that argument in general,
And this is why I critique the secular pro-life position, because it can't justify these things, but we can.
yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I would say that if you're going to use that argument, kind of just say, like, from your perspective, use it as an internal critique and say, from your perspective,
Yeah.
would the future experience be something that you would think of, basically, especially to people who don't necessarily know a ton about the topic, and say, well, theoretically, I could have a guy. Theoretically, we could have had somebody who is as smart or smarter than Einstein be killed in an abortion because you thought it was okay. You could say something like that. And mainly that would be more useful to somebody who actually doesn't know anything about the topic and who's never thought about it. A lot of people who don't have intellectual conversations would also be kind of persuaded by that argument.
Yeah, I just don't think it's I don't think it's very good, though, to be honest.
Not an
I wouldn't
actual
use that
debate
at all.
against. Yeah, not
I wouldn't
against
use that at
somebody
all,
else
because
who actually knows the
he
topic.
is kind of correct in saying that, like, okay, if you want to argue about the future, shouldn't it be baked in there that it's positive? If not, then what is wrong with making sure that that if we know the future will not be positive for this infant, then what's wrong with the abortion? To which, if I was gonna defend this argument, I'd probably respond with, well, we can't actually be certain of that.
Well, not only, even if it...
Because there's many instances of situations where doctors were saying things were going to be really bad, and it turns out nothing actually went down, right? So
Well, another problem with that argument, again, would be, even in a bad situation, you can make something out of it. I know a lot of people have been born of single mothers or whatever, and that doesn't necessarily mean.
Also, I would ask them for what constitutes bad enough.
Right, and they could still
bad enough that such that it would be permissible for them to just not live at all.
Right.
Those would be a few questions that I'd ask.
Yeah, like if I were to be abused for like 20 to 30 years since I was born, you could say that's a really horrible experience and probably the most extreme you could think of. Even then, what if they create something that revolutionizes the health industry or something like that? Like, then it would completely...
I would just say that the strongest response to his counter response is, well, you can't know that for sure. Like, there's no way. There's many instances where people have said that and it hasn't come true. So you can't you're basically destroying a life over an assumption, right?
All of those work.
The mod goes, as long as it says, LOL, the mod goes, have you got a response or... Yep. We also believe in something similar to the image thing, so we hold the same position.
Who was that?
Islam Ganister says that...
all persons due respect, even if they might be disabled or dying. But I think that the future like ours argument has the benefit of explaining why the vast majority of human killings are wrong, but also why it's not wrong to kill animals.
I think you can just ground that. I don't even think you need that, honestly. I think you can just say, look, we're not the ultimate life giver, so we don't get to do that. It's not ours. We have no right to do such a thing.
Yeah, and especially because one of the biggest tactics that abortionists will use is they'll try and obfuscate to a whole bunch of stuff that particularly doesn't matter, like you kind of already addressed. So if you keep arguing with them on these things, it doesn't, like, you
Yeah,
don't
you
really
always got to get it back to the core of the
Right.
issue, which is
get it back
the
to
value
what
of
you
personhood
need.
and where that comes from and what that is.
Even
So-
if you have a pretty smart animal. Like pigs are pretty smart. They can play video games to earn treats. They can beat a lot of infants at things, but we turn pigs into pork chops. We don't do that to infants. And I think only of the future like ours argument or the fact that just humans are persons by their nature
Yeah.
can explain that. If we go with your view that, well, it's consciousness that matters, I don't think it works. And if you bracket it to say, oh, I'm talking about human consciousness, then I think it gets arbitrary.
Ooh.
I would agree to some extent that it gets arbitrary, but arbitrary in only the ultimately skeptical sense of like all morality absent a religious justification can arguably be arbitrary. So
I'm so happy that you just conceded that to me while you're here. Thank you. Thank you. We wanted
No
atheists to
way.
concede this to us forever. Thank you.
Thank gosh, man.
Thanks, man. You
Yeah.
know,
That's ridiculous.
Hey, atheists, if you guys are watching, this is one of you guys. He has conceded to you that you can't justify morality. We take the W once again.
I can have to agree with you there, but I think we both probably agree that the human conscious experience is significantly altered or different than the animal conscious experience. I have had some people bring up the argument that, like, well, if you're defending conscious experience, what about conscious experience of pigs or dogs? A 2-year-old dog might have more of a conscious experience than a 6-month-old or 6-week-old child.
Right.
My understanding is human development doesn't happen that way. I don't think that we, at like 6 months in the womb, that we have like a lizard consciousness and then we're born and we have like a horse consciousness and then we're like 1 year old and we have like a primate consciousness and then it becomes like a human consciousness. My assumption is once all the parts are in place, you have to gather kind of these quality of these experiences in life. You see things, you experience things, and your mind kind of grows. But
Right.
the development is done. Now it's just the acquisition of experience and then kind of like the connected neurons and everything. I don't think that our conscious experience significantly changes such that it's evolving from like one animal to the next. I think these are probably all stages of like human conscious experience. And then I would go back to, it sounded like you kind of said earlier that there's kind of this like ontological category of like human, and then at all stages you protect that human thing from fetus to end of metabolic activity.
Well,
and then I
right.
would agree with you, except I would bracket that inside the conscious experience part. But,
Right. And the reason I don't bracket that is because there are two reasons. I think you're going to include non-human animals or arbitrarily disqualify them, or you're going to exclude some human beings.
Oh.
Well, I guess
This is what we mean when we say that these things backfire on them every time. This is what we mean, guys. Just so you know.
So let me ask you just a question here. So I've got this. This is a cool book, actually, if anyone wants to get it. It's called A Child is Born by Leonard Nilsson. He is actually pro-choice. He doesn't let pro-lifers use these pictures in their books and stuff. But he pioneered in utero photography back in the 50s and 60s. He died in 2017. So like this would be a 26-week-old fetus. And so that would fall under your definition, requires legal protection, right?
yeah, but not because of what it looks like, but yeah.
Well, I'm just showing the thing.
Sure.
Like, I think it's important in this this is an I understand these things are and I'm fine
Yeah, we don't necessarily need pictures. I know because I'm blind and I can't see any pictures, and I still am out here.
showing actually from all the stages. So if you want to bring me back up here, like this would be first trimester. So that's about could we actually go back? So this would be a embryo. It's about 4 weeks old. Most abortions happen right after this point, but you can see the heartbeat, things like that. So that'd be the first trimester. Then we go forward a little bit more. We've got 8 weeks. So that'd be an embryo at 8 weeks. Then this would be, well, fetus at 8 weeks, I should say. Then this would be 12 weeks, is what we have here. And then right before the...
Use all chats.
Wait, what happened?
He told me to use all chat filter because there were some that weren't coming through. Maybe I should get a pig to help me with AHCO.
Wait, what happened?
I'm not reading.
Oh heck no. Oh, he's not doing this again. He's not doing this. Did he say that he wants a pig to help him with the hero's call? I'm not doing this.
He did.
Oh, I'm not doing this.
Oh my gosh! Oh dear.
Cutoff, right before Destiny's cutoff, would be, this would be 19 weeks. And then, so my question though is, that 26 weeks, let's bring that up here. My question would be, why is the killing of this thing so bad that it ought to be illegal? Can you just explain to me the badness? Like, what's happening here that's so bad it ought to be...
Hey, by the way, this guy said he has no ethical justification. This guy said it. I want you guys to remember that Destiny conceded.
Literally conceded.
Morality is arbitrary if you are a skeptical atheist, hyper skeptic. So he's about to justify something that he doesn't even believe in, or that he will inconsistently believe in.
He pretty much just loses the debate kind of because we do that.
Yeah, if you
pretty much just
concede that
loses,
there's no morality, you
realistically.
lose every moral debate ever. Like, why are you even here?
Yeah, just
Illegal.
send him home.
Without getting ultra fundamental, I think that probably every constructed human moral system on the planet agrees that we're all probably afforded a negative right to life. That
Notice how he said every constructed moral system. So he just again concedes and admits
Literally.
that all these systems are arbitrary and
Is
useless.
he this
So
stupid
if
that he
I want to
literally
be a
concede
consistent atheist,
everything?
yeah,
Is
I
he-
want to
is he
be
just
a
stupid that he
consistent
doesn't know how to
atheist. I'm just
debate?
gonna say I don't care. There's nothing wrong with anything anyone
Is this how
ever
bad a
does.
debater he is? I've seen like a lot of people who don't understand like debating a ton, who would
At
literally
least
just
he's
concede
at
their
least he's
entirety
honest
of
about
the
where his
argument that they
position
need.
goes.
They don't
Right.
know what they can concede and what they can't. And this guy looks like he's just doesn't know what he's talking
He's
about.
just conceding everything to us, man.
Just
Like, thank
give it
you.
up.
You know how long we've been trying to get it across to the atheists that there's no morality on their system, and you finally just come along and go, yep,
Yep,
that's how it works.
Let's go.
Thank you.
Thanks.
for somebody to infringe on our right to life requires a big hurdle to surmount.
Hey, why do you have a right to life? That's another question. Can you answer it?
Right. So if I'm trying to kill you, if I've done some violation of a law, where a state's decided to put somebody to death, that for the most part, if governments exist for any reason, one of the most fundamental reasons are protection to life, quite literally, that negative right afforded to us. So as long as all of us are humans, as long as we're all social creatures and we've all got some agreement to live and work and exist with one another, that negative right to life ought to be protected at all stages of when a person exists.
So it's like a social contract.
Essentially, yeah.
Doesn't that destroy your point? Let's grant all this. Doesn't that undermine you and not us?
Would a society be incorrect if the social contract included all biological human beings, so every human embryo or fetus?
When you say correct or incorrect, what do you mean by that?
Would it be a morally bad or evil contract? For example, 150 years ago, there was a social contract that said some human beings could be enslaved, for example. Throughout most of human history, social contracts have excluded certain groups of people. Were the social contracts in those societies immoral?
Keep in mind, whatever he answers, he shouldn't be answering it with this because he has conceded once again that morality does not exist.
So immoral is kind of, in a way, begging the question of which moral system we're using. Obviously, insofar as theirs were concerned, it wasn't. For me personally, I don't believe in any sort of like moral realism. I don't believe in any kind of like moral fact. So
Here he goes. Thank you. Once again, here we are.
He's like, oh, this is really undefensible. I just gotta concede this. Let me just concede this.
I don't believe in moral realism. All right, you just lost the debate.
Yeah, literally.
No
Just
matter what
end it
position you
over.
take,
It doesn't matter if literally.
Let me
he
give you
just
guys a tip,
destroy
okay?
on facts.
Let me give you guys a simple tip. It's gonna be very useful. As soon as you're in an ethical debate and you say I'm not a moral realist, you lose. You
No,
lose.
literally, Trent could look like the biggest idiot from now on because he made those concessions. It doesn't matter. It
Yeah.
really doesn't matter
Trent
much.
could fumble this entire debate, but Destiny
He could
loses
fumble it.
because of this.
Because
Just
literally,
because
he
of this.
conceded that he has no moral grounds to stand on.
Because they don't exist, right? According to him, not according to us.
No, literally
Again,
not.
once
according
again,
to us.
atheist, this is you. This is one of you guys. He's telling you.
So I don't think I could evaluate from some objective frame of reference, this thing is absolutely morally correct or this thing is absolutely morally incorrect. As far as I'm aware, I don't believe that we have any organs to allow us to perceive any sort of moral fact in the world. So I think that moral systems are invented by people. I think that we all have kind of shared intuitions. And so when we're writing like any kind of moral system, I think what we're doing is we're kind of leaning into the intuitions that people have, and we're trying to write rules explaining kind of why people feel the things they do.
You are a secular humanist. I've already dissected secular humanism before. It's really not compelling and really not a good position.
As an analogy to that, did you ever take any musical training?
Yes, I was in the 7th grade, and I was an idiot, and instead of picking the guitar, I picked the trumpet.
Okay.
L. Guitar
Literally, ow. What
It
gets
turns
played
out girls
that's-
like the guitar more than the trumpet. But
True. So for music, there's something called music theory, which is a theory of explaining how music sounds a way to a certain person.
Right.
A music theorist can't write and say, this is going to sound good to you. All a music theory person can do is say, well, these things tend to sound good. Let's figure out the rules for why they do and why they don't. And I believe that morality is constructed in the same way. So I'd be like, probably like a non-cognitivist school of thought under like a moral anti-realism, I guess. So to go back, when you ask me, is something like objectively right or wrong? I don't believe that there is an objective right or wrong. Just like I don't think there's like an objective beautiful or an objective best song or an objective anything like that.
Hey,
Yeah.
this is what happens when you take out God from your ethics. This is what happens. I hope you know that.
Yeah, literally, this is another thing. Like when it comes to debating as a sport, if you can show that your opponent doesn't have this particular thing, or maybe they have too many problems and they can't have answers, maybe they have too many pre-assumptions and you don't. If you can show that his version of morality isn't as good as yours, then from an objective standpoint, it looks like you won the debate because you can answer the questions that he can't.
Yeah. No way, bro. Man's just pulled a Jordan Peterson. What do you mean by the what do you mean by thing? The one that he's like, well, what do you mean by objective moral value? Yeah, I understand you don't have it, but we do have it.
We do. Yeah, that's the
We
one
did
thing
have it.
he's not like we haven't gone into that.
Also, he
Eh,
kind of conceded that apart from any religious framework,
Religious,
it doesn't
yeah.
objectively. That's what he said. So what he just said is, we
If I was-
atheists have no morals. You guys do.
You guys do, and in the moral
Thanks.
debate, if you can concede that, then you just lose.
Now,
If Trent should
Destiny,
just
I hope you
point it
never
out.
meet the secular humanists like Matt Dillahunty, because they will not like you, because they still want to pretend like they have some kind of moral system that works.
Yeah, so what I would do if I was Trent right now is kind of pound that in and say, okay, well, even if you don't agree that from a religious standpoint we do have a basis of morals, even if you don't agree with that, you literally just conceded that you guys don't have any more about like basis, and we do have something that works for us. Then again,
Yeah,
we
so
just
you
win.
just lose. No matter what position you're taking, you could even be pro-life. And this is, again, why I critique pro-life secularists. Because they can't justify these things.
Again, from a debate perspective, you want to make
Yeah.
sure that your side has the answers that your opponent doesn't. So if you have the
And
answer,
since he conceded that
of
we
what-
have those answers and he doesn't, he
yeah,
just
again,
loses.
if I was Trent, I would just pound that in, like say, okay,
So
It's over.
like I would say it's evil to rape someone. It is wrong to do that, and it is a fact that no one should ever do that. Full stop. Would you just say rape makes you feel bad, you don't like it, you'd prefer people don't do that.
Yeah, that's essentially the non-cognitivist position, right?
Let's go, dude.
I feel like it.
Hey, I didn't plan on doing an atheist polemic stream today. I didn't plan on doing that, but I don't have to because he's conceding everything that we've been saying for years and years.
Everything that we need to win this debate, he conceded already.
Not just this
It's already
debate, but
a
all
wrap.
debates, all ethical debates, we win. All of
Yeah,
them.
we literally he just
Because I don't think you can. I don't believe there's a fact to be observed. My challenge would be is how do I observe a moral fact?
Well, I just think that we have a sense of observing morality, just like we have a sense of observing the natural world, and it's not the Matrix. We
So
have
if-
an intuitive ability to do that, and I have no reason to.
Trent, you need to bring in the Catholic framework right here. Do you know why you need to do that? Because it can account for all these things.
Right.
It-
Again,
it
showing that
can
you have an
tell
answer.
you.
He doesn't. That's
Yeah.
they just lose. Even though he already conceded that he lost the debate. Like he literally just did when he said, other than from a religious standpoint, you can't justify it.
Yeah,
He
so
literally
just bring in the
conceded.
Catholic
He just
framework.
said I lose. He just says basically because I don't have a way to justify anything I'm saying, I
Now,
concede
he
to
didn't
you
say
and
I
you.
lose, but that's the logical
basically
consequence.
what he
That's the
said.
consequence
Now
of
it'd be nice to see what
Okay.
he actually has that actually supports his position because all he's done so far is show how much he agrees, and he's basically just kind of sucking
all
off
he's
the
done
fact,
is be
you know?
useful for us.
Right.
deny that ability to exist, that ability exists. I just as I know the world around us is real, even if I can't prove that, I know that it's an objective fact that it's wrong to rape children, for example.
So let's say that you had two people and they came together and we were observing the natural world, and two people had a disagreement over if I dropped this cup, will the cup go to the ground or not, right? Do we believe in gravity, essentially? I think that if there was a disagreement between those two people, I think that we can run tests that appeal to our faculty where we can... God damn it, Brian!
There's a motorcycle
sorry.
outside.
Sorry,
the
guys. There's
studio.
been.
We can-
Is
so-
it a leaf blower? Or
No,
I don't know
who
what
knows?
it
We
is.
all there's
Alright.
sense data that basically we can acquire from the real world, and then it can, assuming none of us are psychotic or delusional, we can come to an agreement over whether the cup will fall or not. If two of us were to analyze a situation, we can say like the rape of kids because that's a pretty obviously wrong one for most people. But if we go into Harrier,
You just conceded that there's no wrong. I'm gonna keep pointing
Like
that out.
what is
gonna
his
keep
whole
pointing that
argument for
situations like say
abortion?
Kyle Rittenhouse defending himself, there's a disagreement there over whether or not you might have a right to kill somebody based on them attacking you. How do you observe the disagreement? Like
Right.
how do you reconcile who's right or wrong if there's a moral fact there?
Well,
Because we have a objective moral standard and lawgiver that tells us we can do things in self-defense. That's how.
Yeah, it's
That's
pretty
Catholicism.
funny.
That's literally Catholicism, bro.
It's literally hilarious that he's doing this because he's acting like we can have a discussion about how we can like morally justify things or how we can morally disagree about things when he just conceded that he doesn't have any way other than what he's talking about right now. Again, he's just ignoring the fact that he lost and conceded the entire debate out the gates.
Yeah, he's just
Like if I did this in front of somebody who actually knows debates and who actually like judges debates, I would look like an idiot.
you'd lose. Just objectively speaking.
Well, just like in general, let's say there are facts of history. Just because we might disagree about which historical facts are true or not, we might not have access to all the information or make inferences. We can still say that, it was a fact that the Civil War happened, for example, even if we disagree about what exactly caused it or something like that. So when it comes to morality, even if we disagree about the fact that there is disagreement about moral issues, I think that shows there's objective morality. Now, as a religious person, I do think there is ultimately a universal moral lawgiver, what people might call God, that ultimately explains that. But even if you didn't believe in God, and there are many moral realists who don't, you could believe that, well, the fact that we talk about abortion, we're not talking about abortion like we talk about sports teams or talk about fashion. Does this look good? Does that look good? That's very subjective. But it seems like when we talk about abortion, we can make moral progress. We can get closer to having a better position. Like I think America has made moral progress in getting rid of slavery, giving women the right to vote.
Getting rid of Roe v. Wade, finally.
Things like that.
Finally.
But if there were no objective morals, you couldn't call it progress. It would just be change. Just like
Yeah, but on his view, though, he could just deny that there is such a thing as moral progress and be right on his way.
Well, it was
Because
fun.
if I was analyzing this from a hyper skeptical atheist point of view, I would just say there is no such thing as moral progress. That does not exist.
how fashion changes.
Yeah, I agree. But I mean, moral progress is begging the question that there is an objective morality, right?
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying.
In order
Yeah,
to make
literally.
progress, there must be something you're progressive to.
let's get out of the basement and go back to abortion.
Sure.
So-
Well, I do want to say one thing because you
Sure.
said
No, don't
No,
do that.
no.
Do not do that because he needs to be able to ground his system. Anything he says from here on out needs to be able to ground the presuppositions that things are immoral and ethics and everything.
Right. Well, another
Which
thing
he
is,
just conceded. You could just leave this debate right here. You could just say I
yeah,
win.
you could. Yeah.
Especially
again,
because you asserted that you have an ethical system that works.
I think Trent's just pretty positive that he's gonna be able to destroy him on abortion, though. So I might.
that
If
you
I
can have a
think it's
disagreement over
just
historical
gonna say
truth.
this has already been
Again,
discussed
that
enough.
truth are empirical things. Like I could uncover archaeologically, like some item that disproves or proves another theory. That's fundamentally different, I think, than a disagreement over a moral fact. For instance, two people, a woman says something slightly rude to her husband. The husband strikes the woman to discipline her.
Right.
Two people come together and they say, I disagree on whether or not that's right or wrong. Where is the moral fact? How do you actually determine concretely who is right or wrong? Because
Religion. Don't let him. Don't give him
Yeah,
the
literally
secular.
any kind of basis that you could have to say that I know that I'm correct and I can back up why that's the case, which for us would be religion. For them, he just conceded. They don't have any. He
for
just
historical
conceded
fact,
that.
the answer is there, right? Somehow there's some piece of evidence you could find to prove, yes, this did happen or no, this didn't. But for a moral dispute, how do you reconcile that between two different people who disagree?
Well, I think what you would do is you would start with the most basic intuitions that we can see are correct, like just starting with you ought to do good and avoid evil. It's wrong to rape and torture someone because
Yeah, but that's just, again, going back to those questions of what does that mean? What is that?
it's fun for you. Courage is better than cowardice. And these are just basement level things that people can see are true. Just like we can see the natural world around us, we can see the external world. There might be some colorblind people.
Okay, I would agree with those things that they're true. I think he's fumbling. I don't think that he should be using these kinds of arguments. He needs to ground his ethics in a framework that that Destiny already conceded.
Right, especially because
ground
he
that.
did concede it. I think he's trying to get away. I think he's trying to not do that because he's like, because he doesn't want to bring religion into a debate.
No, but
against
you have
atheists.
to.
And
That's what people don't understand about this debate. You gotta do this.
Do this. A lot of Christians do this though, is they'll say we don't, and they'll just basically live the entire argument and the entire debate as if they're an atheist, and you shouldn't do that because now
Right.
both of you guys can't base anything that you're saying because it is a moral debate. Then you have to go into different arguments about all this, and it's really just
Don't let
obfuscating
him. Don't
it's obfuscating from the actual truth that killing babies is
don't
inherently
ground
wrong.
your morality in a secular framework because that doesn't work, and both of you guys know it.
People who can't see it like we do, but that doesn't take away from the objective thing. Let's go back. I want to go to your.
I understand we can go back, but I think these parts are pretty important because it's going to inform a lot of
Okay,
this.
let's put a pin in it because I want to talk about your view about abortion though, because I think when it comes, I think here's what I think honestly happens.
Yeah, he fumbled this morality part. Trent's my guy, but this no,
Yeah,
you don't let him get away with his secularist ethics that he
there's a
conceded
difference
suck,
between-
that he conceded don't work.
Right, especially because like if it was for me, I would say, okay, we're not gonna have this discussion. What we're gonna do is we're gonna beat into your head until you concede this, which he already did, really.
Which he already did from the beginning.
Realistically, he already did, but I would just say, okay, well, you just conceded my entire argument, and if he continues to start bringing in all of this nonsense, I can just keep saying it doesn't matter because what you just conceded is that because I am religious, I have the
this.
basis. You do not. So who has an answer for this issue? Me or you? Whose side is better? Me or you? Whose side can actually say one way or the other, is abortion good or bad? Me.
And it doesn't have to just be abortion. Give me any moral dispute.
Sure.
We'll say is, all right, here's moral issue X. You have your view, I have my view. And we critique, and a lot of the ways we critique each other's views is, your view leads to these crazy consequences. Yeah, but your view leads to crazy consequences. So then we kind of say, okay, whose view leads to kind of less crazy consequences? And that may be the more reasonable view we ought to hold. I think that happens a lot in moral discourse.
Yeah.
So your view then would be this. And then I'll talk about the consequences, and I'll talk about just the overall, what I think is wrong with the view. That a person exists when you lose the immediate ability to be conscious. I guess when you permanently lose it. Like if you're in a persistent vegetative state permanently, you're no longer a person. When you lose consciousness, you're not a person anymore, when you lose it permanently. So you start to be a person when you gain it. Prior to 20 weeks, there is no person, there's no one there with a right to life in the fetus. Correct? Your view? So I have a few questions then. Would it be wrong to cause a healthy fetus to become permanently unconscious?
No.
This is the part that I saw from this debate where he concedes.
Did he just say that? Hold on. Rewind that.
No. You gotta see this.
So I have a few questions then.
Look at this.
Would it be wrong to cause a healthy fetus to become permanently unconscious?
No.
It's gonna get worse. Don't worry. It's gonna get worse.
Hold on.
So what?
It's gonna get
You're
worse.
You're telling me if you were to try and stop permanently a healthy fetus, that's wrong. And he says that
It's
wrong?
not. No, he said no. He said it's not wrong. He was asked, would it be wrong to stop a fetus from existing, basically, if it's healthy, before it gains consciousness? That's essentially the question. He said no.
Yeah.
It's not.
Would it be wrong to cause this permanent unconsciousness to use, let's say you could keep growing the fetus into an older body, to use it for organ harvesting, maybe as a kind of sex doll even?
Watch this.
A body. To use it for organ harvesting, maybe as a kind of sex doll even?
As long as it never became conscious or didn't have the faculty?
Never became conscious.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, he just said that's not wrong.
That was a good snark from us, by the way. That was kind of brutal.
Ugh.
Trent. Oh,
Ouch.
damn.
Dude. This is the kind of thing that if you concede and admit, your own side will say that you look like a lunatic. Even though it's consistent and even though it's where that position will lead you,
Right.
your own
can't
side is
concede
going to
it.
give you pushback because they don't
Right, you
understand
can't
this.
concede
And this
it.
is the absurdity that you go to when you are a pro-choicer, just so you know.
Just so you're
Related
warned.
question, but we'll circle back soon. What are your thoughts on fake child pornography using AI or virtual images?
Fake child pornography. I'm not going to have a strong opinion on the action itself. It's going to be consequential in nature in terms of like what are the impacts of doing it. So say you create a bunch and people stop actually abusing children, I'd probably be in favor of it. Say you create a bunch and it leads to an increased harm of children, I'd probably oppose to it.
You have a practical objection, not an in principle objection.
No, they wouldn't be like a no. Yeah.
Okay.
No way! Secular ethics, everybody. This
Hold
is-
on.
this is why yours-
This is the worst. Oh, like literally every single thing that Trent wants him to concede, he's pretty much conceding everything to him. Like,
Yep.
like he's literally just saying, "Can I like
Not
pull your
even-
pants down? Yes. Can I take your underwear? Can I win the debate?
Poor.
Is it mine? Like, please."
This really is. Remember how I said that this is the best pro-choice has? I do mean it.
So then it circles back. So let's say we had people who took fetuses, made them permanently unconscious, and made them infant, toddler, or child sex dolls. So we have, so we have unconscious infants and toddlers. They were never conscious. They're used as child sex dolls. Your only objection to that practice would be if it caused more pedophilia among other conscious
Correction.
children.
Yeah, because I would say no person is being harmed there.
Oh no! Nah.
Wow. Horn. Ow. He's an idiot. Literally, this is the worst debate I've seen with him. The worst one. Typically, when I see Destiny debate, it's on like a Trump versus Kamala, because that's what he's been doing recently. So it's like he's always on offense and he's never on defense. This is probably why. Because
this
everything,
is the reason.
every
time he's on defense, he gets battered.
Like literally, he just gets logically destroyed because he just gives up everything. His whole point just looks retarded.
Okay. So child sex dolls could be on the table. Okay.
Kind of, although I would fight the framing of this because child is intuition pumping the idea that it's a fully formed, developed human, and I would never call a brainless thing
Fine.
a child.
Yes. So then I would say human
body lacking a brain. I would say you can do whatever you want with
a
it. Yeah.
biological human organism that proceeds through the child stages.
Sure.
That is never conscious.
Sure.
There we go. All right.
Yeah, he just said that you can do that. Just for anybody who is a little bit slow, doesn't understand what's going on, he just said that you can do whatever you want with the body of an unborn fetus as long as it doesn't have a soul, is essentially what he just said.
Yeah, that's logically, that's like...
For slow boys out there who don't know.
For anybody who's not cut out for the charter bus.
No way.
Would it be wrong to kill a newborn who has never been conscious?
Assuming it lacked the ability to be conscious, sure. It's not, or you can kill it. There's nothing to kill. You could end the existence of whatever that is. Yes.
Well, suppose it didn't permanently lack the ability. If we gave it drugs or something like that, or maybe it'll naturally come out of it in a few months.
When you say come out of it, we start to get into an area where you're like kind of disintegrating my concept of consciousness. So I consider conscious experience to be an emergent property of the underlying structures of the brain communicating with each other. So if you're telling me, what if you had all the underlying structures, but you didn't have that conscious experience? It's a really hard one for me to conceptualize.
Let's just say the structures still have to develop, I guess.
Sure, then it's an undeveloped. Yeah, then I would say it's free game.
Is that what he's saying? I'm dumb. I can't conceptualize that. I don't know what you're talking about. Like,
I don't know what you're saying.
Is that a way to just win debates? Can I just say?
I don't
That's
know.
literally what he's doing. He's like, can I just say that I don't understand your argument, so therefore I'm just gonna reject it on principle? Yeah, I win.
That's literally an incredulity fallacy. You can't do that.
Yeah. But that's literally what he's doing.
For example, I think this came up a little bit in your dialogue, Lila. You have an anencephalic child who doesn't have an upper brain, someone like Jackson Buell.
Yeah.
People can look that up online. Doctors said he'll probably die. Most anencephalic children, the upper brain does not develop. So the neural tube fails to close. So you just have a lower brain. And Jackson lived to be about 5. Now, his parents claimed that he did exhibit signs of consciousness. Some other people might debate that. I don't know. But you would say that if a newborn didn't, never develop consciousness. I mean, I guess it's like a fetus and never developed it. The structures haven't developed yet in the brain. Okay. Here's one that'd be interesting. Suppose we had a drug that could, so take the anencephaly case. Normally, if you don't grow if your upper brain, consciousness doesn't develop, it's never going to develop. Suppose we had a drug in the future that could allow an anencephalic fetus to develop consciousness. But if we don't give it the drug, it'll never be conscious. Does that human fetus, that human being, biological human being, would they have a right to that treatment?
I don't think they would have any rights yet, because rights, I would say, are only afforded to persons.
I just want everyone to understand, okay, that this is pro-choice best.
Like, if somebody is looking at this debate They have to be like really, really stupid, or just
They
not
have to
debating or
look.
logic in general.
If you are
or
disgusted by the
intellectual
concessions,
conversation.
if you are disgusted, like just morally, by the concessions that Destiny is making, understand that this is the pro-choice view. This is what you, if you're a pro-choice, have to logically end up concluding.
Another thing is if anybody says that Destiny won the debate, I challenge their intellect and if they actually know how logic works
Yeah, because
or
he
anything about
conceded
it.
like everything.
Everything.
Right? And he probably makes the more normie pro-choicers think that he's gross. So
Yeah,
even his
literally.
own side would say like, we don't claim this guy, but this is just the reality of your position.
I don't think
Okay.
fetuses are afforded any rights, so no, it would not have a right to it. No.
So even if we had a newborn
Correct.
who could be conscious if we gave them medicine, they don't have any kind of right to that treatment.
No.
And I guess
Although again, I would fight on the optics framing because when you say newborn, we're intuition pumping a normal, healthy 9-month fetus that's now delivered. But I would fight that whatever you're describing is a very inhuman
it is a newly born human being that has a brain injury.
or a lack of parts of a brain. Right.
It is a newly born human being with a congenital cerebral defect.
Okay.
And we could give this human being medication for them to have a normal and healthy life. But you're saying this human being would have no right to it. And
I want you guys to understand that the reason he's not conceding that they would have a right to it is because it collapses his whole freaking view.
Yeah, a lot of
It
people don't
destroys
realize
it.
why he's doing these
I
concessions.
think he's smart enough to
There's
understand
logical
that if he
reasons
says
these-
yes, that they do have a right to that, then he destroys his own view.
Yeah.
Because what happens is, if you say, okay, well, they have a right to be conscious, then abortion takes that away.
I guess their parents wouldn't have a right to say this child ought to be treated any more than somebody who has a dog that's injured would have a right to similar treatment.
I mean, you have a right to treat your animals, right?
But the question of whether we as a human society,
You completely missed
Wow, so humans are less important than animals? Is that what he's saying? Did he just say that?
will treat this infant will be
As in,
similar.
like, is there some moral compulsion on like a healthcare system to provide
Right.
emergency services or something?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, no, I would say no.
Okay, so not.
And the reason, again, I want to make this very clear for those that may not be
Don't know
cut
the
out.
argument. Yeah, they don't know. They
For-
necessarily don't know the argument.
They don't understand. Okay, so the argument is, or the question I should say is, Trent's side is asking, okay, well, say you have a fetus who is not conscious because it has been impeded from that. It doesn't have that because it has some kind of brain deficiency. Okay? Does that, and we had a way to give them that consciousness and make them live normally. Do they have a right to have that? If Destiny says yes, he collapses his abortion view because abortion takes away, even if we grant that the fetus before 20 weeks doesn't have consciousness, if he says they have a right to have consciousness, then abortion is wrong because abortion takes away consciousness from that fetus. So he has to say no to keep his position. So now he cares about maintaining his position. Before he would make all these kinds of concessions about how, well, morality doesn't actually exist, which lost him the debate. But now he cares about being consistent.
Yeah, which this is not how you would do this. If you wanted to actually try and do this, what you would do is you'd try and get them away from this, because if they actually try and hit you on these things, you do have to make some of these conclusions, which make you look like you're either insane or an idiot.
Yeah. Pretty much.
You'd
Provide no duty to provide medical care to newly born human beings who have a brain defect.
Kind of, although again, I'm going to fight because when you say newly born human beings, you're intuition pumping a normal, healthy.
What do you mean? What do you mean by intuition?
When I say intuition pump, what I mean is, it's like, do you think it's okay to rape a person that doesn't have a brain, And then if I say, well, I guess it's
No, but you do. You do.
it's not barely a person. You're like, okay, so it's okay to rape people with brain injuries. I would fight and I would say, well, when you say people or person, the intuition is when somebody thinks of a person, they think of like a normal, healthy, functioning person. And then you're plugging in like all of the normative baggage of raping somebody, which is ordinarily, we would all agree, is an unethical thing to do to a person.
Or
So,
sure. Or I could be, in describing it accurately, a newly born human being, because human being is a biological category. Most people have a deep intuition that newly born human beings are persons, even though they don't.
Where does that intuition come from, though?
It comes from a moral sense that we have, the same sense we have
God. Just say God.
that people are persons regardless of their skin color.
No, I disagree. I think it probably comes from us seeing human
Yeah,
beings that
literally
are born,
stop
and the
this.
vast majority of them being healthy, right?
I-
If it was the
stop
case
and,
that
like literally stop pretending you're an atheist in this debate, because it makes your entire position
Just
seem
say
like you're
God.
trying to. Yeah, it makes you seem like you're trying to do an internal critique the entire debate. And you have to say, as an
Which he
atheist,
kind of is, but like
Like,
he just
almost
conceded that he already conceded the ethics point.
right?
So,
I mean, it's realistically it's over. You should have kept him on the first point almost. I mean, he's beating him on this one too, but
only 5% of human beings that were born, come out with fully functioning brains, that
should-
intuition could be markedly different. So that's the only reason why I fight on the newborn child with a brain injury. We're talking about an exceptional,
If you
kind of like
guys
when
aren't understanding-
but like when pro-choice people argue about,
if you guys aren't understanding, he's fighting the wording, basically. He's fighting the wording instead of actually addressing his questions. Because he knows, or I guess I should say that
he should know.
should know. Because
Yeah.
I'm not going to make assumptions about him personally, but
I think he's
he
kind of
should
stupid,
know.
but he might not know.
I'm not going to, be uncharitable and make assumptions like that. Because my whole point last stream was about how people shouldn't do that. But he should know, if he's intellectually consistent, and he understands his positions, is that if he answers this question with a yes, this question of does a fetus that has this kind of brain deformity, do they have a right to be conscious? If he says yes, abortion is considered wrong by his own standard. That's why he won't answer the question. So if you're not understanding, he's just getting around having to answer this by just fighting some of the terminology he's using, and I think Trent's doing a good job pushing back on that, saying like, no, I'm just using accurate, truthful terminology.
But like we've been
We're
saying,
disregarding
this,
intuition and emotion in this conversation because it is a conversation about ethics.
but like we said, a lot of this stuff doesn't particularly matter, because the actual point is, the actual point from our position would be, do we view life as valuable? So, and do we think that do we think that we should have the ability to take it away? And if he just keeps him on that point, then there's no way Destiny wins. So he's getting too advanced into it. He's still beating him. It's just not as easy to see from a normal person's perspective if you don't know the argument. It's hard for them to see that what you're saying, because because you're using such advanced terminology, you're getting more invested to the topic. But what really matters is those two things. And if you're you shouldn't be fighting on these grounds. Now he's still winning, but
like abortions to save the life of the mother, and like, shouldn't this be legal? Pro-lifers will usually point out, well, that's an exceptional circumstance, a very rare case of abortion.
Right.
I would argue that whatever you're talking about would be a 0.00001%. This is a very rare. I don't even know if these types of brain injuries exist when people are born, except for like the hydrocephalus.
Anencephaly is a real condition. What I'm talking about is a hypothetical example of we develop medicine to treat it.
Sure.
And that's not as far-fetched as a brain transplant or a teleporter. I mean, 150 years ago, a hip replacement would be science fiction, and now we can do that.
That is true, but I don't know if we've made any progress in terms of like brain regrowth or transplants but I mean...
Okay, so he's just fighting this on the, is this hypothetical plausible kind of thing, but...
Yeah, he's going to plausibility, which doesn't matter because it's just a hypothetical argument anyway.
Doesn't necessarily matter, just answer the question.
To answer his point, there is things that we're doing and making advancements on particular things in the brain, and kind of trying to develop that and for replacement. It hasn't been working out too well as of now, but yeah, they're trying to work at it. So they're working at it.
Yeah.
So to answer
Who's
his
to
point,
say
if
it could
he
happen in
wants
the future?
to-
Right.
like,
I do have
because-
a concern, like when you say I am intuition pumping. I agree with you. People can have misleading examples. I'm trying to keep the language very clear here. But I would say the way you use the term makes it sound like intuition pumps are bad. That's not traditionally how the term is used. So, for example, the term comes from the philosopher Daniel Dennett. So he coined the term, I think, back in the 80s. He wrote a book in 2013 called Intuition Pumps and Other Tools for Thinking. He says this: I coined the term in the first of my public critiques of the philosopher John Searle's famous Chinese room thought experiment. Some thinkers concluded I meant the term to be disparaging or dismissive. On the contrary, I love intuition pumps. That is, some intuition pumps are excellent, some are dubious, and only a few are downright deceptive. So I agree with you, someone could create a thought experiment that's deceptive in its nature, but the fact that I'm just describing what is happening to members of the human species, I don't think that's deceptive in any way.
Yeah, I'm glad you're pointing that out, because all you're doing is using truthful and accurate terminology to describe what's going on here, right? And maybe you misspoke when you said the brain injury thing. I'd say that's misspeaking. But the overall point is there, and he still has yet to answer this question.
Right, he still is kind of obfuscating.
Sure,
Again,
and
a lot
I
of the
partially agree.
abortionist argument
So,
is
for instance,
obfuscated to random nonsense that doesn't matter. This is the more advanced obfuscating.
Yeah.
Where at a lower level, they'll just kind of
This is like
obfuscate to
very
the
this is very
2%
semantic. It's like,
maximum.
oh, you need to use this precise terminology. Which, okay, I'm all for using precise terminology, but he's clarifying
That's
it.
his
And you're
full
still
debate tactic.
you're still pushing on something that he clarified 5 minutes ago.
Right, and again, this is the more advanced version of obfuscation that you see from pro-choicers. That's pretty much their main tactic, is to get away from some of these things like that and just say that women should have the right to choose if they want to have a baby or not, which they already made that choice realistically. He said that abstinence doesn't work, but I can challenge that.
if somebody says, why would you hit your own wife? That makes about as much sense as keying your own car. We could argue that there is a pump there that I think is like the fact
Did
that
you
you
just
compare
say
your
that
wife
women
to
are
a car
property?
maybe demonstrates that
In
there's
essence?
another issue going on.
Nice.
with
Yeah, I would say that
No way.
Destiny? Why are you saying these kinds of things? Your own side would cook you.
If you key your own car, which is your own property, by the way. I mean, that's.
I mean, if you want to get all like super technical about it, yeah.
He kind of just conceded that women are
He
property.
pretty
right?
much just said.
Hitting your wife is analogous to keying your own car, and your car is property. So does that make your wife?
Does that make
just
your
property?
wife your property as well? Look, I don't
way.
believe that, man. What the heck's wrong with you?
the example has a mistaken set of assumptions built
Sure.
into it, which you can do for any thought
Yeah.
experiment.
But the only reason why I'm fighting on this particular point is because oftentimes when we say a person or a child, there's a feature in our mind of what a future complete person or child is. But when we say a person or child absent things that are typically essential to that person or child, it feels a little iffy at the end to say, okay, so you'd be okay doing this to a person or a child. I'm okay with it. I'm only marking it for the audience because I know that the way that you're phrasing it makes it sound a certain type of way, and I want to fight the rhetorical.
Here's another question then.
Notice how he did not answer this question. Trent, you should have told him to answer this question.
Yeah, literally, that's another thing that people try and do is they kind of just try and work with their opponent as much as possible. On things like this, when they're just blatantly not answering your argument, you just keep hitting them on it. Even if they concede, you got to say, okay, well, now you lost the debate because you just said that you don't have any moral basis to actually justify any of the things that you're saying, and you just conceded to me that I do. So then whose position is better? So you would just keep hitting these points.
Now, you would
over
agree,
and over
though,
and over
that
again.
infants have consciousness.
It's very
They're aware of things. We'll talk about the level of consciousness. So it'd be wrong to kill them. What if a human being was injured, and because of their injury, they permanently were at the level of consciousness of a newborn? Would you say that that's still a person?
I believe so. My understanding is that like once those parts in the brain are communicating and you've got some level of conscious experience, it's there. It's not, again, like I said, I don't believe that you go from like lizard consciousness to dog consciousness to ape
But I don't
consciousness.
think that's his point, though. I think his question.
Yeah, I was about to say that doesn't matter.
I'm pretty sure he's asking what happens if you lose it. The way that I understand this is that he's asking, what if you lose that ability?
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't particularly matter what Destiny wants to say. He's just kind of
Human
like
consciousness.
saying his own
Like
thing.
once it's there, it's there. It's got to be in that bucket of human conscious experiences, even if it might be relatively subdued.
Do you think a 3-year-old human being is more conscious of the outside world than a newborn infant?
Whether or not it's more or less conscious, I don't know if that's as much part of the development of the brain versus the acquisition of sense data. So if you take a 1-month-old and for some reason it's like a little bit developmentally delayed in terms of like it's the brain growth, but it can still collect and accrue a whole bunch of experiences, then that level of development might be enough to gain a surprising understanding of the world. I mean, obviously it's going to be cognitive impairment, but I don't know if like the 3-year-old is more conscious because they have a higher level of consciousness, or if they've just been spending more time collecting data about the world. Like I would say a 25-year-old is probably more conscious of the world than a 10-year-old, but I don't know if that's because like the 25-year-old developmentally or consciously from an experience is like more mature, just they've collected more data information.
I agree with you. A 25-year-old will have more conscious experiences, but I'm talking about the very act of perceiving the outside world. I would say that a 5-year-old and a 25-year-old, it's pretty similar. Time might run a little bit slower for the 5-year-old. They haven't been around as long. That's why summer break felt forever when we were kids, and now it goes by fast when we're parents.
Yeah.
But I mean, I have 3 kids. I've seen the infant stage all the time. They're basically eating machines, pooping machines. They can't recognize you just by sight. Would you agree that an infant and then a 1-year-old, their brain has to get bigger and develop more neurons and synaptic connections to have more different kinds of experiences, wouldn't they?
I don't know if I would say it's like, I don't think I would call them an inhuman conscious though prior to that. This is probably just like part of the development of a conscious experience. But like my understanding is that even in the womb.
Trent should actually address this pre-assumption though that Destiny is making when he's making this whole consciousness argument, is that it does in fact seem as if they have a consciousness at a particular time. He kind of addressed it, but not really, because he should say like something along the lines of, you're making the pre-assumption that you are correct on when human gains its consciousness in the first place.
I think there's two
Just
places
point out his
in the debate where he
pre-assumption.
lost. The ethical concession, and also the part where he kind of answered the question of whether he actually, I think he refused to answer the question of whether if we could make those fetuses conscious, whether we have a duty to do that.
Yep.
Because if he says yes,
Matter of fact, that makes him look horrible, because if we have to do something to make it so that way they're conscious versus just let them live and do nothing about them, that makes them look even
just
worse.
let them have it. But like the essential question is, do they have a right to be conscious? If yes, abortion is wrong because it takes that away. If not, then you lead to all these kinds of horrible positions that most people would say are repulsive. But it's a consequence of the ideology that he has.
I believe children, whatever you would call it, like a third trimester developed thing can identify differences in languages, for instance. So I don't know. I think I take issue sometimes with the framing that like a 1-month-old is like...
Or here's the third trimester fetus hears different sounds.
Can differentiate different languages. I believe that like on newborns, I think the study was like, I think they tested it was like 1, 3, and 5 days, I think, but you can test like I think it's, they hook something up to the head and they see the differences between the native language, a non-native language, and then gibberish. And I believe that newborn, like within a week, can already differentiate different sounds that are not part of the native language. So I don't think like a 1-day-old is like just a blob that has no concept of anything. I think even in the womb, like fetuses are already starting to accrue data about the outside world.
I agree with that. But do you think a dog could probably understand, like dogs can understand the content of words like sit and stay?
I don't know. I'm not entirely sure about that. I'm pretty agnostic on the conscious experience of animals. I feel like human conscious experience is a really sophisticated, sapient thing. I don't know if I would say that animals have anything even resembling our experience. I'm not entirely sure.
I agree. It's not like you or me, but have you ever had a dog?
Yeah, lots, yeah.
Did you ever train them with commands?
Yeah.
Okay, so it seems like an infant, they don't recognize like verbal commands. It'd be great if they did. Or like the example I gave with pigs. People can Google this online. Pig plays video games. They have pigs. They have to move the cursor to get it onto the blue dot, and they get a treat, and they can do that more than just what random chance would allow. Like pigs seem pretty smart. I think it'd be fair to say they have more of a conscious awareness of the world than like what a newborn infant has.
I don't know if that's true. I think that smart is a word that we use, but I don't know if like ability to problem solve or do Pavlovian associations is the same type of thing as having a robust sapient experience that humans have. I do agree that dogs
Literally
and
problem
pigs
solving
and dolphins
is how-
especially can
is
learn
how they
really
test
complicated.
IQ. And I would say if you have a high IQ, you're smart. So if you're going down that road, I'm pretty certain they test your IQ based upon how good you are at problem solving.
Yeah. Think so.
So he just loses. He just
The
loses.
intricate patterns, but I don't know if they have the same like semantic understanding of the world or type of conscious sapient experience that humans do, even if they can do really complicated pattern recognition, essentially.
Yes, because this is what I'm trying to figure out here is that, so let's say someone's permanently at the newborn level, so they're very disabled. So in that case, do you think there's people, if that person might be on a feeding tube because they might be really hard to manage? Imagine a 35-year-old who acts like a newborn. Might have to restrain them, maybe can't spoon feed them, might put them on a feeding tube. People in that situation might be very difficult, and they're not going to have rational experiences like you or me. Do you think a lot of people would want to withhold food in that case?
Possibly, but I think probably social contract and everything with the agreement that we have, we wouldn't do that to old people that need a lot of help with themselves. We don't do that to people with extraordinary mental disabilities, so like low functioning autistic people or something. So this would probably fall in the category of protected people due to the rights that we afford everybody.
You lose again. Because why aren't the fetuses protected people?
Yeah, literally.
It's very arbitrary now that you're just excluding them for no reason.
Yeah, you're just doing
So
this to
you don't have a
point and try and win a debate that you already lost.
Yeah, I mean, you already lost. It's over.
principled objection against the social contract being widened to include unborn human beings. You just personally don't agree with it.
Would I have a problem with it being widened? I mean, I would, because I would disagree with the widening of it. I disagree with the moral justification.
On arbitrary grounds. Because you just... Oh my god.
He should just give up. He should just be like,
Just-
I'm giving you the debate. Like, just if you
Just
want.
say
just
I
don't talk about that
arbitrarily,
thing.
literally just say I arbitrarily exclude the unborn,
Yeah, literally.
and it would accurately.
But then you just
summarize
hate
your position
babies.
for
You just
everybody.
hate babies. You just want them all to die. Practically.
Well, I'm not gonna assume
You
that.
might as
that's
well
true.
say that.
But
You might as well say that from his position.
just say that
He
you
already
are
gave it
that you
up.
don't have an actual good reason to exclude them.
Other than because I feel
for it, I guess, with a metaphysical
humans
justification
just
for
like
it, because I don't think a one cell thing is the same thing as an adult or even a third trimester fetus.
It's
yeah.
not this. It is.
Yeah.
I agree. It's not the same.
I don't think it's the same thing in kind.
It is the same biological kind. You're saying that its moral value changes, but as a moral anti-realist, you can't believe moral value exists subjectively. It's just your opinion.
Yeah, but just because you're an anti-realist doesn't mean that you can't have opinions on. You just don't believe that those opinions are rooted in a moral fact, right?
Right.
Yes, your opinions are not. You just again said that your opinions are worthless. Is
Yeah,
essentially what
that
you
his whole position is just based on his own justification, and that his own justification isn't a good standard to go.
Why
off
is
anyway.
yours better than mine? Well, you just concede there is no better, so.
And because I actually have an answer to
Entitled to your opinion.
why is better, again, I just win because I show that I have a more basis that I can go off of, and you said that you don't, and because I can justify it, and you know you can't, and you admitted that you can't, I win again.
Opinions, however incorrect they may be.
Correct, and you're entitled to your opinions, but only if they come
But you
from.
can't say they're incorrect.
Well, because you have but if you were to argue with a Muslim scholar, they would disagree, right?
Sure.
Or a Jewish scholar. or any other type of religion, right? So
The fact that we disagree shows that there's some kind of objective truth we're all trying to seek out.
that is a total non sequitur. There are people that disagree with whether Vegito or Gogeta would win in a fight in Dragon Ball GT, but that doesn't make them any more real. Just because two people disagree over a fictional thing doesn't necessarily mean that fictional thing might be real.
I don't hold people morally blameworthy based on the position they hold of who would win in a fight, Superman or Goku.
I would just like to point out, I think...
Don't. Whatever you're going to say is wrong.
Well, I'm pretty sure Dragon Ball GT is not canon. Just letting you know.
Okay.
That's an objective fact.
Just letting you know.
Well, but if we argue over whether it is or isn't canon, apparently it becomes an objective fact.
Well, I
so.
reckon we ought to stick to the abortion topic. But
But I will take issue because you said that a couple times now. Just because two people disagree over something doesn't necessarily mean there's an objective fact of the matter, right?
I agree, but
Okay.
also it doesn't follow that just because people disagree that there is no objective fact.
Well, no, I never used that though. What I said was the inability to reconcile a disagreement means that there might not be an objective fact because there's no.
Yeah, and at this point, we just say we have an ability to reconcile the disagreement, and you don't.
Yeah, literally. Where you
it's
just
an
have to
organ
say
that we have
agree
to perceive
disagree.
moral fact.
Your best
Again, to
position
the one
is to say we
example.
agree to disagree. That'd be your best thing,
Husband
and
hits
then,
wife.
and then as the opponent, you'd have to say, "Well, I have moral basis. You don't. I win."
How can anybody agree or disagree whether that ought to be a way that we discipline people? For instance, you said
the
said that-
situation you described is underdeveloped. I'd ask, why did he hit his wife? How exactly did he hit his wife? If he hit her because she's gone crazy because of some kind of drug and is going to attack the
she
children.
hits him. He hits her because she disrespects him in public. She says something like, "My husband doesn't make the bed in the morning. Pisses me off," and then he slaps her in public.
And I would say that that is wrong, even when society once said it was right.
But then another person disagrees with you.
Sure.
How do you reconcile the disagreement?
Well, we would go, and once again, I don't want to get too far away from abortion here, but we would go back to our basic framework for understanding morality.
Honestly, this debate is more interesting because it gets to the presuppositions of the abortion debate itself. And that's
Yeah.
always more interesting to me is let's see what ground these positions are on before we even get to them.
Right.
So if you look at natural law, for example, or just even basic intuitions,
We
we'd
say
start with-
natural law.
Yeah. Well, natural law is just things have a nature. They have a way where they flourish. We can see a good tree versus a bad tree non-morally.
Sure.
It's
But
water,
do you
stuff
get
like
worried that you run into weird naturalistic fallacies or assumptions there? For instance, it's natural for very young people to have sex before marriage, naturalistically, right?
Sure.
So how do you reconcile that with biblical law?
Well, I'm not even bringing the Bible into this.
Okay.
So,
That's
like
your
when I look
mistake.
at
You should.
Yeah, you should, because you just
We
win.
win when we do.
We just win. Especially because he already conceded again that he.
Let's say, like,
he
what-
has on the basis.
our organs are for, I would say, okay, well, what is sex? What does it do? Yeah, it creates these pleasurable feelings, but it also involves the exchange of gametes, and that creates a biological human being. And people are going to, I guess, disagree when it has moral value, but allowed to continue to develop. Normally, it will develop, and it's a very needy human being. Nearly everybody agrees that when it's born,
Sure.
this needy thing is going to die unless somebody takes care of it.
I agree.
That's why like the dependency arguments are really bad when it comes to like
Yeah, 'cause the
normie pro-choice defenses.
Yeah, because the logical conclusions mean that you can kill infants. Or not, yeah. Infants and
But backing
fetuses
up, there's a lot of
or-
other manipulations of sexual organs that don't involve the creation of a child.
Sure, but I don't want to derail us into talking about sexual morality, though that is
Okay, sure.
an issue when it comes to abortion. I do think
I will real quick just because it's a little because
You should
I
debate him on like all these subjects. Challenge him to debate on moral realism. Challenge him to debate on like sexual morality and all these things. Please, dude. Because that would be so much fun to watch.
understand that you've set up a lot of questions for will say
you can-
intuition pumping that kind of make my position sound insane.
you can
but
ask,
Because it is. Like, it
Because
just
it literally
is.
is. You're justifying murder.
It literally,
Literally,
arbitrarily,
murder.
like even from the intellectual standpoint, you're just being arbitrary at this point.
Yeah.
ask me questions too. That's fine.
Well, I
I don't
understand.
mean to
Well,
take
but
it
these are the questions that I'm more interested in because you come from a position of moral authority where you believe that you have a set of objective facts that you want to argue in favor of. But my argument to you would be I don't believe that you can ever prove an objective fact without diving into the Bible. There's no way that we can reconcile moral fact disagreements because we don't have a sensory
I
organ.
agree. You know, I actually agree with Destiny.
He's literally begging Trent to go
I
into the
agree,
Bible.
bro. Destiny, you're a champion,
You're
bro.
such an idiot.
You're
You're
awesome.
baiting him into winning the debate. Literally, you could say that you
He
kind of
said
did
he
a
literally what he just said is that what he just said, translated to normie speak, is if you bring the Bible into this, you win.
Yeah, you win.
You win.
You have basis
Please
and there's
do
no
it.
other
Bring the
moral
Bible
basis you
in.
could
We
use.
win if he does. Come on, man.
Come
perceive
on,
it. We
please
can argue
get
over
to the
color, we
Bible.
can argue
Stop
over
this
gravity, we can argue over things we can perceive, but morality we can't perceive. We just have how we feel about it. And I don't think it's a satisfying answer for a lot of people.
And I would just say if that were true, there's really no point in us talking about this at all right now. Like you'd have to say it's not an objective fact. Like, is it an objective fact that the state should allow women to have abortions?
Is it an objective fact that the state should? Well, that should is doing a lot of work there. Should, with regards to my purported morals, I would say yes, it is that they should be allowed to have an abortion.
Well, but it's not objective. You're just saying I would really
We can
like
have shoulds
it.
without them
Literally
being
just
objective,
conceded this
right?
No,
entire
you
point.
can't.
He has
No, you
morals.
cannot. You can't have should without being objective. No, you can't, dude.
And he just conceded that he
No.
doesn't have morals.
Well, what you're saying here is that you would just like if the state did what you
Correct.
thought was good.
Correct.
What you agreed with. What you,
Yes,
what
correct.
or not even what you thought was good, because that's a factual category. What makes you feel good if the world were that way?
Correct.
That's an opinion.
It is.
Let's go. Once again.
Literally, he's just like, I already said this earlier. He's like, come into my house, go to my bedroom, take my pants off, steal my underwear, run me through, please.
God.
He's literally begging him. He's literally trying to make him by saying, use the Bible,
He
please.
just said, if you bring the Bible in, you win.
No, he's saying, please bring the Bible in so that way you win.
So that you win. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty devastating. This isn't even halfway through, and he's already been.
We could literally just end the stream right now. We could just end
It
it.
is. Okay. That's why
Let's
we're.
just watch like the rest of this. Let's get to
No matter
the
what
50-minute
Trent
mark,
did,
and then we.
he could look like such an idiot. He could look like he has an IQ of like negative, and it's still
no matter. Yeah.
He
Trent
already,
just wins.
he already lost in the first, and he literally lost.
We'd argue with each other, but I believe at the end of the day we're engaged in the same game. It just I think that you feel like you're standing on more solid ground than you actually have.
I do think so. Here's another question. Do you think post-abortive women who think they are murderers or women who mourn miscarriage, like it's the death of a baby, that they're deluded?
Not necessarily. No.
Do you think
I think that when they're mourning, I think that they're mourning a missed opportunity rather than the thing itself. I think.
But if you asked them,
I don't know, man. I would go ask women who've miscarried and ask them why they're sad about it, and I
Yeah,
guarantee
well-
you they're gonna respond with because I lost my baby.
Yeah, another thing is like even people who have had abortions, a lot of them do feel shitty about it afterward because they realize what.
Because I lost my baby, not because I could have had it. The baby could have had opportunities. That's part of it, but the main reason is I lost my baby.
Another thing, I think what Trent's trying to do here is not. I think he's trying to make it so that way he's on trial the entire debate, and he doesn't want Destiny to go on offense. I think that's why he's not bringing the Bible because what he's doing is he's just putting him on trial the entire time and just pointing out the flaws in his argument.
Yeah, but Trent is an apologist who specializes in defending the Bible.
Right. So I don't know why he isn't.
So if he was to get into the biblical debate, he's right that it would derail the topic. Absolutely, yes, it would. But if he would ever get into a debate about the Bible, he's probably gonna win.
Yeah. And a lot of these kinds of debates, I guess philosophical debates aren't necessarily as based in this, but like especially a lot of like facts debates are just based upon who knows more, regardless of what position.
women who've
they
had
take.
abortions and
What
say
he's
I'm a
doing is just
murderer, or a woman who
going with his
miscarries
argument
and says my
and
baby
not
died.
providing an alternative.
I think most of them wouldn't phrase it because some of those women may have also gone through periods of infertility. And I'm sure they would say their period of infertility was different than the death of the human being that was residing in their womb. So I guess let me put it to you this way.
What I'm saying is that I think if a woman miscarries or if she has an abortion, and later comes to have regrets about it, I think that the feeling she has is probably not like, oh my God, there was that 3-week fetus and I terminated it. She's probably thinking,
It literally, I mean, it's not.
It
gonna be
literally
worded
is.
like that. It literally is though. It's not gonna be worded like that. It's gonna be
No, because
I
it's
lost. It's gonna be I killed my baby. That's what
I
it's gonna
killed
be.
it. Not even I lost it. I killed it. I made
And for the
choice.
miscarrying, the woman who miscarries, it's gonna be I lost my baby.
Either that or it's they're a
But
monster.
either way, it's gonna root back to I lost a baby. That's what's
Have you
gonna
heard some of the
matter
people who- have
primarily.
you heard of some of the people who are like, say, I'll have 15 abortions, I'll have 20 abortions just to spite you guys. I've heard of those people.
I've heard of those people.
Just people are ridiculous.
like,
I don't know why
there
you
was a
wanna
baby that could have
work
existed. I
with
could have
them.
delivered a baby. I would have had a child. There was a person there that's now gone.
Do you think those women ever say, I killed my baby, not something will
They
become?
probably, yeah.
Okay.
Probably say that.
Do you think a woman who
Yeah,
said,
that just blows up your whole point because you said that it's they're mourning over the opportunity. And unless you want to tell them what they're mourning over, you're forced to call them deluded.
Not to mention, they make the whole argument that you shouldn't be able to tell women what to do, so. Or what they should, or how they should think is more
To
accurate.
be fair, Destiny thinks all those like surface level pro-choice arguments are bad. He
His
does
arguments
think
are equally horrible. He just
I
gets at
agree.
a more advanced
But
level.
he just, but
that way
he
it looks
just
like
wouldn't
he's a
say
little bit
those
more
things.
intelligent.
Destiny himself
But it doesn't
would not
matter, 'cause he already
say
lost.
those things. But he did lose, yeah.
as I'm a murderer because I had my period and I expelled an egg from my body? She's like, I murdered a human being. Do you think she's deluded?
If you thought you murdered a human being because you had a period,
Yeah, you passed an egg. It didn't get fertilized, and that egg died.
it's a loaded word, but I say she's probably deluded, yeah.
Yeah, we would agree with that, but I don't think you understand where he's going with this.
Why is she deluded?
I'm not even sure periods are part of normal human menstruation. Are you crying every month because you're murdering?
My point is that I agree.
But
with
I would also, I would take the same intuitive answer, and I would say, does a woman cry or feel bad when she accidentally has a slightly rougher period? She doesn't even realize that she's miscarried. Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot of miscarriages happen early on when women don't even know they're pregnant yet.
No, I agree. I am not saying that because an unborn human being is a person, that everyone who miscarries will react properly or react with intense grief.
Okay.
There's lots of born people that die. We don't shed a
So
tear for.
basically, his point, just so you guys understand, I'm good at simplifying these kinds of things. So he's remember that Destiny doesn't think that the fetuses have value. Okay, so the reason that he's talking about the egg here is because that is an unconscious thing that doesn't have any value. And he's saying that there would be deluded
It's kind of like the.
and being
it's similar
and
to
crying
an
about
argument.
that. They should not think that they murdered. Okay,
It's
so
similar to
what?
the
So
argument.
if you're right about the fetuses not having value either, then women who miscarry, I have to emphasize, on his view, not in my view, in his view, women who miscarry are also deluded because they're mourning over something that had no value.
Yeah. It kind of goes into the whole. It kind of goes into the argument of the seeding versus like an egg or whatever a little bit, and Destiny kind of gets into that a little bit. So I kind of think it's weird that he doesn't understand where he's going with it.
He should.
He should.
Or at all. There's people dying right now as we're talking, and okay. But my point is that if a human embryo prior to 20 weeks, would you agree that it has the same moral status as an ovum, an egg?
There he goes. Yep. Told you guys. Made this point before he did it.
We've done that several times though. to be
Same.
fair.
I mean, they're different things, but yeah, roughly the same, I guess. Yeah, as a no moral status. Yeah.
Okay, so then I would say that if a woman we would consider her deluded or off the reservation, or hey, there's nothing to get worked up over here. It was just an ovum.
Mm-hmm.
You're operating with a really mistaken sense of the world. It seems like under your view, we should have that same mentality towards post-abortive women prior to 20 weeks. But I think my view better aligns with most people's intuitions that the death of a human embryo or fetus is far, far different morally than the death of an ovum.
But they're not valuing that fetus, they're valuing what it would become. And again,
I don't think that's true, though. I challenge that. I think that if you were to go and survey women who have regrets about abortion or have miscarried, that you would get the result of, like, if you ask them, why do you regret this? Why are you sad about it? Because I either killed or lost my baby. And then your response has to be, if you're being consistent with your view, is, you shouldn't be sad about that because you didn't lose anything valuable.
Right,
because
'cause
you
at that
just
stage it
conceded
wasn't
that they
valuable.
have no moral status.
Yeah, because at that stage it wasn't valuable. According to him.
According to him, not according to us. I just
Not
want to
according
clarify.
to
It's not
yeah.
me. I don't hold any of these views.
It's an internal critique, not an
It's an
external
internal
critique.
critique.
and I agree with what you're saying, but I think that you're skipping over really important steps. If I steal $10,000 from somebody, did I steal $100,000 from them? I didn't. But if I steal $10,000 from somebody when they're 20, maybe when they're 25, they're like, oh God, like if I would have invested this, or 27 over 7 years, maybe I could have had $100,000. So when they're 25, they might feel really bad. They feel like I should be $100,000 richer. But that
Sure, but I don't think that this kind of mentality applies with post-abortive or women who have miscarried. I don't think that.
doesn't change the fact that 7 years earlier I only stole $10,000, not $100,000. So if somebody loses a fetus, they might feel bad because now they're missing the child that could have been. Much the same that if somebody would have connected with the right person earlier in life, maybe they could have had a wonderful marriage, but just because they're mourning the fact that they didn't meet a person at the right time doesn't mean they're suddenly divorced. The marriage never happened.
So you're saying when somebody
developed.
grieves over a miscarriage at, let's say, 12 weeks, that's the same grief as like misconnections on Craigslist. Like, oh, he could have been the one.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll leave it up to our listeners to see if that is plausible.
Rewind. Listen to this.
Dude, no
The
way.
same
he
grief
said
as,
that.
let's
We'll leave
say,
it up to them.
12 weeks. That's the same grief as like misconnections on Craigslist. Like, oh, he could have been the one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
This is how Destiny thinks about women who miscarry. Guys, this is how he thinks. Just so everyone knows. He just said that it's equivalent to nothing.
He failed. He just gave up.
I'll leave it
the
up to our
entire
listeners to
argument.
see if that is plausible. And the last
Hit
one,
him
I
with,
guess,
I'll give it up to them.
just to make sure you're on the record on this, do you agree with laws that would make it illegal to kill wanted fetuses? Like, let's say a woman's pregnant, she's really excited, her boyfriend is like, I wanted you to get that abortion, and he slips her a drug, or he like kicks her in the stomach or something to kill the baby, to kill the unborn human being, and that human being dies, or he kills the pregnant woman, and this 12-week fetus dies along with her.
Mm-hmm.
In like 35, 38 states, and under federal law, that would be homicide for killing that unborn human being.
Double homicide, yes.
Do you not agree with those laws?
Prior to 20 weeks, no.
Okay.
Wait, what did he just say? Hold on, rewind that.
He said
please.
no. He said he doesn't agree with those double homicide laws. You're like,
And that human being dies, or he kills the pregnant woman, and this 12-week fetus dies along with her.
Mm-hmm.
In like 35, 38 states, and under federal law, that would be homicide for killing that unborn human being. Do you not agree with those laws?
Prior to 20 weeks, no.
Okay.
Prior to 20
Alrighty,
weeks,
so-
it doesn't matter.
And like I said, and I'm fine to pitch
yeah, he just
back over to you.
earlier in this debate, he pretty much just agreed.
Like
that
literally,
it's
he just
arbitrary,
gave up. He just like surrendered
because-
the entire argument and is pretending that
Yeah.
he can argue about this.
and he's pretending
His
that he can
nonsense, and
still.
it doesn't matter
I mean,
'cause he
this debate
conceded.
should end here. Trent should just
It
say, "I'm
should have
done." Like you
been conceded.
lost.
It should have
This is
been
over.
done. Like literally, if
You
my
can-
opponent.
I mean, you can
concedes
I
stuff
have
like
more
this,
for
I'd
you,
be
but you can
like,
interrogate
okay,
me also.
he's lost
I want to
the entire
recap
debate.
your view and what it leads to.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
All right, this is probably a good place to end after he does his recap, just so everybody knows, everybody understands the progress that we on the pro-life team have made. We just take the W. Objectively speaking.
Yeah,
just
even
just
for
to
a debate
recap, it's
standpoint,
permissible to
nobody-
kill
confirmation
infants
bias.
who have
Yeah,
not
there.
been conscious yet, to kill toddlers. Oh yeah, what if toddler loses all of his memories and they're not going to come back? He's at the same stage as like a 19-week fetus.
It's impossible. That's like asking me, like, are you killed when you teleport into Star Trek? I don't think I have an answer for that. I don't think it's a very difficult hypothetical. I think it challenges the concept of identity, but I don't know if that gets into like a human life or not a human life. If we're talking about deleting somebody's memory and resetting their brain to 19 weeks.
But why does it? Because I guess here is, what if I gave you this argument? Hold on, I have here, because the symmetry argument you were making, I feel like it is, I can make a better one that runs on the same principles.
Okay.
So what about this argument? A person stops, I don't endorse this for everything, but let's just do it for this discussion.
Okay.
A person stops existing when future conscious experience becomes impossible for that individual.
Okay.
Do you agree with that?
When future conscious experience becomes impossible for that individual, yeah, they lose the ability to have a conscious. Yeah, sure.
We win. Okay, he properly conceded what I want him to concede. We just win. Because he just said that they lose personhood when they lose consciousness and they can't get it back.
Bye-bye. Just go away. Just, like, leave. We don't want to hear your disgusting voice anymore. Go away.
This is the
We
perfect
just
spot
don't
to-
wanna
We
hear
win.
it, man.
This whole
We've
consciousness
been
argument,
won.
which was your whole argument the entire time, you just conceded it now. Thank you. Thank
Go
you for
away,
doing
just
this.
bye.
Because
Please
now
leave.
the pro-life position takes the victory once again.
Oh, again, like, literally, on every front, he's already lost because he just concedes everything he needs to. I already made the
Yep.
analogy. You don't want me to make the graphic
Yep.
analogy again.
Well,
He's not cut out for the charter bus, okay? We get it.
he's not cut out for the charter bus. And this stream has gone on for
Too long.
almost
we're
2
only
hours,
halfway
and we're
through
not
the
even
day.
an hour in. So, I think this is a good stopping point. If you guys want us to finish this, you can go ahead and comment, and like we'll try our best.
We'll think about it.
We'll think
We'll
about
consider
it.
We
We'll
might
think
not. We
about
might
it.
not care. We might give up.
We may or may not do it because I mean, there's
He already
nothing you
lost.
can do to recover.
It doesn't matter. Even if Trent looks like if it could be literally Trent seems like someone else completely replaced him, and they try to stunt double and they just give him someone brain dead. Even if he stays silent the entire debate, he just
Yeah, at
it's
this point,
hard to
he's-
lose.
He's just lost. I mean,
It's hard for Trent to lose from his position. I mean, unless if
because
he just
before he wanted to
said-
fight on the idea, I just want to recap that. Before he wanted to fight the idea that people lose their personhood when they lose the consciousness ability, but now he just said that they do lose it. This very last clip that we just heard. So.
Can we send him home now? Can we like send him home on the trolley? There's a little problem here.
Well,
He's still there. He conceded the debate 15 minutes in. Like, can we just,
literally less than 15 minutes into the debate, he had
like, he just lost.
Yeah.
He just said, please win the debate. He's giving his opponent answers for why he should go and win the debate.
Yep. With that being said, everybody, I think it's pretty obvious which position is better, just morally.
Backed.
Yeah,
Justifiable.
can even justify its ethics. Yes, I think it's very obvious. I think it's very easy to determine. But I don't know. I'll leave that, as Trent says, I'll leave that up to the listener to decide.
Hit
what
him
they
with
think
that.
about
That's
it.
disgusting. That's so mean.
I will leave it up to the listener to tell me whether the pro-choice position is sustainable even. And whether it's something that you can agree with now knowing the logical conclusions, endpoints, and consequences of this ideology. I'll leave it up to the listener to decide that. With that being said, everybody, we are
The champions.
we win, obviously. But so on a serious note for the channel, we are working on different project ideas, different concepts. I have all kinds of different things that I could be part of, that I'm thinking of being part of. You know, a few videos on theology, political commentary. I still have to put that VOD up of that last Flat Earth debate so everybody can watch that. We
Speaking of
may
which,
clip
we
this
might have
stream as
more.
well, but I don't
We might
know.
have more debate.
And if you have any challenges to any of our assertions or positions, you can feel free to comment on the channel, and we will get to it. And you can, you know, be on the live stream and then challenge us or whatever you guys want to do. We can promise respectful discussion. At least on my part. I don't know about this guy.
Your co-host is nice sometimes.
I don't know about this man, but we can promise that we will have an environment where you can express your ideas and there will not be emotional arguments, emotional objections.
I don't like your side. Go away. Leave me
Yeah,
alone.
we
I don't
don't
like your
like it.
voice. Go away, Destiny.
We
F off.
promise you that our behavior will not be like atheist ethics, where it's just like, oh, we don't like it. Okay.
But I don't like Destiny. I don't like it.
I don't like it.
It. I don't like it.
Okay.
Its voice is repulsive.
So, that being said, everybody, we'll see you guys in the next one. Yeah, see you guys later.